everyone, thank you for clicking on this video. Today I'm going to show you how me and my friend Logan beat Brotato's second hardest difficulty, Danger 5. To start out my first attempt of the day, I chose the Knight character class and the Jousting Lance as my weapon, knowing they were both very strong picks. With that, I jumped into Danger 5 and started my first run. To ensure success on this run, I chose a few main attributes to focus on. I got defense and max HP to help tank these difficult Danger 5 mobs, speed to help avoid their attacks and boost my damage even further because of the lance weapon, and melee damage itself to bolster my damage even further. Throughout the majority of the run, my main strategy was simply surviving each wave and then buying items to increase these previously mentioned stats. I focused a lot on armor, as the Knight character class allows you to gain a lot of extra melee damage if your armor stat is high. Sadly, this run ended due to our lack of points in the luck stat. Both me and Logan chose to invest in items that increased the potency of consumable healing items. However, we didn't invest any stats into extra luck, which causes enemies to drop more of these consumables, and we both died on wave 13, ending this run. The large failure of our first run of the day caused us to do some research into different classes and weapons and overall builds that we should use for this danger in order to succeed. It turns out me and Logan weren't actually all that wrong about what we should do. It turns out the Knight is actually a really good class for Danger 5. However, the lance isn't as good as a weapon as we previously thought. It turns out the sword is a much better weapon, especially for the Knight, and we use that in this next run. We also focused on getting a lot of luck early game in order for enemies to drop more consumables so we can heal more efficiently. Our new focus on luck, healing, and armor allowed us to push our builds much farther, and relatively easily we were able to pass wave 13 and move on much farther than we were with our previous run. On wave 18, I died very quickly to an elite and many charging enemies and enemies that buff their allies. This caused Logan to have to fend for himself, and because of an item he selected, he could only heal 5 HP a second. This sounds very good until you realize we were buffing consumables for the entire run, so it resulted in him dying and us losing the run once again. We realized then we'd have to seriously step up our builds if we wanted to get anywhere close to actually winning.
I'm not leaving your house till we beat this.
Are we trying the new build?
Yes.
Let's look at more ChatGPT builds. Wait. Yeah, I might have used ChatGPT to research all of my Brotato builds, but as you will see in the video, they are very good. With this new threat from Logan and new determination in our hearts, I selected a build with the Crazy and the Shuriken, which was a weapon I've never used before. Logan stuck with the Knight build, and we hopped into another run on Danger 5 to try and conquer this difficulty once and for all. The build I used in this run functioned much differently than the build that both me and Logan had been using in the past. Instead of relying on survivability and damage, it relied on throwing shurikens extremely quickly and using a high crit chance to bounce them in between multiple enemies. This resulted in it being able to kill small enemies very efficiently and being able to hit enemies from across the map without even having to go to that part of the terrain. It also used lifesteal, as shurikens were hitting and killing many different enemies very often, so it was an efficient healing method for this build. By wave 13, the damage output of my build was just not high enough. 15 damage on wave 13 was not cutting it. I was also getting two-shot by almost every single enemy. Logan was doing decent with dealing 100 damage with some of his weapons, but I was basically doing nothing, leaving it up to him to fight practically double the enemies that he normally would. This resulted in both of us dying once again at wave 13, putting us back where we started once again. For our next attempt, I decided to choose the Masochist, the only real character for a true Brotato player. Logan stuck to his guns and chose the Knight class once again. We were both confident that he would do pretty well, given that he kind of carried both of us in our last attempt. I chose the scissors as my starting weapon because of its high lifesteal percentage. For those who don't know, the Masochist class starts off with a lot of extra defense, max HP, and HP regen, while also having minus 100% damage. However, every time you get hit in a round, you get plus 5% damage every time you get hit until the very end of the round. This means if you get hit a bunch, you can surpass that damage debuff and do crazy damage numbers. However, it's a lot of resource management because you have to make sure you're taking enough hits so that you can kill enemies and make money, and also not die from basically letting enemies whittle your health down over time. At wave 9, both of our builds were doing very good. I was basically immortal with all of my defense and was dishing out crazy numbers after the first few seconds of a wave. Logan was also doing good with decent survivability and 6 swords, doing out consistent damage. Then I found an item that would change this build forever, the Dock Moth. This allowed both HP regen and lifesteal to be doubled when you stood in a certain bubble of the Dock Moth. This doubled all of my healing for my build, allowing me to survive practically anything. At some points during runs with the Masochist, I was tanking elites. Then, somehow, the most outrageous luck happened in the history of anything. Logan got the Excalibur. We were not searching for this weapon at all, and he just happened to get it. We knew this was the run. Then, somehow, someway, after wave 14, I re-roll in the shop and get the scythe. Me and Logan just acquired the best weapons possible for our builds. We couldn't lose. We were unstoppable. It was if the Brotatos up above have blessed our specific run for a reason. We were going to win this run. The joy we felt going into wave 16 was great. We had been at this for over an hour. Now we couldn't lose. It was impossible. These enemies were falling before us. I was invincible. Logan had the best and highest healing weapon. Wait, what? I died? But how? Oh, no problem. Logan has the account. Yeah, we died. And it's safe to say that we were not happy at all about that.
I hate this game. It's over. Literally the best weapons for our build. Physically impossible. Why? We threw it. Why? We threw. How did you die from 128 feet? I don't know.
For the next run, me and Logan both focused more on survivability and defense. We wanted to be able to take a lot of damage from these later waves so we'd actually survive. However, one key difference was in this run. We did not get the Doc's Moth. You would think this is inconsequential, but that item practically doubled the survivability of my build and aided Logan a lot when he was ever at low health, so we ended up dying even earlier at wave 15. In the next run, I decided to mix it up again and go with the crazy shuriken build. It was doing pretty decent and actually better than the last time. I had more lifesteal, more damage, more range, and more things needed for this build to be successful. However, even with all of that, the survivability was very bad, and Logan wasn't doing great with his build. So when I died on wave 12 to an elite, it was only a matter of time before Logan died too, and we lost another run. At this point, Logan's eyes were literally watering and tears were pouring down his face from the amount of time we had just been playing Brotato. We needed to lock in, make good builds, and beat difficulty 5 so we could actually be done with playing Brotato. For our next run, I decided to go with the night build with Logan because I'd been dying a lot in the past and Logan had been doing pretty good with his builds. Been getting consistent damage, good survivability, and the knight is just a great class. Like, being able to get a ton of extra melee damage at the cost of literally making your character better with armor is such a good passive ability, so we thought this would be our best chance to beat Danger 5. Further into the run, we were doing pretty well. We were both doing good damage. Logan didn't have as much health as he could have, but I probably didn't have as high as a damage output, so we were kind of balancing each other out here, and we were doing pretty good. Brotato had taken like a physical toll on us, so we were just enjoying ourselves and actually getting pretty lucky with our items, so we were feeling that this run was definitely going a bit better than the other ones had. This run was going pretty great. We were both playing the knight, as stated before, which is just an all-around great character. Our builds were really good. We were breezing through wave 13, which is probably one of the hardest waves in Danger 5 for where you're at. But then we got to wave 18, and once again, there was an elite. This wave is really hard by itself, and combined with an elite and our mediocre builds, we just weren't able to defeat it, and we died once again. The next run of the day, I switched it up again and went with my favorite characters and builds in general, the Engineer. Now, the Engineer really has one straightforward strategy. You get a bunch of turrets and landmines, and then you make them deal good damage, and then you run away from all the enemies. Now, there's a second strategy you could do involving the Pocket Factory item, which is very strong, and if you get a bunch of trees, it annihilates everything. But sadly, I did not get the Pocket Factory this run. so I could only use the turns from my wrenches and the individual ones I got in the shop. Now this run, out of every single one so far, was by far the best. My turns created a pocket of safety that either me or Logan could return to if we were ever low on health. They also killed a lot more enemies than we were used to killing at a time, so a bunch of heals dropped for both me and Logan to pick up, keeping us consistently at high health. We breezed through wave 13. Logan had a very strong build going with tons of survivability, health, and a bunch of damage, and he was consistently one-shotting enemies. I had lots of structures which supplied the perfect support for his build, and also had decent survivability myself, allowing me to stay in the game if Logan were ever to die. And then a miracle happened. I died on wave 18 when an elite spawned in. This was as difficult as it has gotten all day long, but Logan picked up a few heals, kept circling around the boss, and in the end he was able to survive, letting us move on to the last 2 waves and possibly win. This was our chance, our shot. We had made it this far for the first time. We could do it. We could actually win. We could be done with Brotato. At least Danger 5, but the bosses started to do pretty big damage. I was trapped in a corner. My bell exploded. I died. It was all up to Logan now. Just 70 more seconds. He could hang on. But in the back of our minds, we knew we had already lost. After this defeat, me and Logan joined into one more game. The Masochist and the Knight, the classes both of us preferred the most and we thought would do the best, and we joined into our final round of the day.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I'm shaking.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah!